Hello everyone, hope you all are doing very well. If your interest is learning the deep technical information about MCP, this session is for you. My name is Avkash, and in this session we are going to cover the technical details about how MCP servers are created and how they interact with MCP client or MCP host such as your Claude Desktop. Very first thing, if you are developing MCP servers and you need to know how an MCP host such as Claude is connecting, and as you could see here, this is connected with my Avkash MCP demo server and it's searching and downloading files. It also using a method called zoom, which I have created, and it's whenever I say zoom a number, it actually zoom a number, and it's basically 2 to the x to the power 4. So it's take and then it try to zoom a number. That's my method of that. So I have created these applications or these functions and I have exposed them as a MCP server, and those functions are available inside the MCP server as the tool. And that is what I have done by installing the MCP servers, and those things are connected to IDE or the Claude Desktop, and here are the functions. So this video covers how we create step by step and how we install MCP server. We also cover how to debug the MCP communication between the host and the server and anything in between, with various scenario where I have introduced certain bugs and we debug them. So this session is really created for technical people whose job is to not only write the MCP servers or client, but also make them work with variety of the host as well as the client systems. So this video is going to be very useful for those people like them. I have a little theory I have added. If you are interested, you can look into. If not, you can jump directly to the technical discussion. So let's get ourselves started. Very first thing, I want to take a general understanding of why we are writing the MCP server or MCP client. Before even that, what is MCP and what kind of support it has? So MCP is just defined as a model context protocol. And the reason why we have created is that because when you are communicating with the large language model through applications or through applications such as Claude IDE, ChatGPT, variety of them, you are interacting with the language model, but language model itself has limitation with the training content it has been trained for. It doesn't know anything what you have created, such as the method which I have called the zoom. Zoom is total my personal method, and I want zoom to be available whenever I would want in context of LLM. So those limitations are being supplied or they complemented by the MCP, but that is not the reason. Reason is that because when you are creating a LLM context, for example, here you are connected and you want to connect with a variety of the information sources, such as Salesforce, a very good example. It's a SaaS client. There are thousands and thousands of SaaS applications. Salesforce is one of them, used by tens of millions of users. A lot of sales related data, customer, prospects, etc., it's all sitting in Salesforce server hidden behind credentials. But if I'm using any large language model and I'm interacting, I want that information to available for my session when I'm interacting with any large language model. MCP or the model context protocol makes it very standard. It means once Salesforce MCP server, if available, using that which is installed with my MCP host or MCP client, I can provide my credentials, and by providing my credentials, I can make all that information accessible to my large language model or my LLM connectivity or LLM connection. It means I can interact with my content like the way I'm interacting with the large language model. And it makes my business much more usable in so many ways. So Salesforce MCP Server is one example. You can connect variety of systems like local file system, various databases, various SaaS tools. The limit is enormous, but the key is here is standard. It means once MCP server for a particular type of connectivity is defined, that can be utilized again and again and again by anybody who would want to use it. It means if I want to make my local files which are installed in this machine accessible to Claude, I and he and she, nobody need to write that application by themselves. Once the interface between local file system and the LLM client or LLM host has been established, that particular code can be used by anybody, any number of people, as long as the environment is same. So the standards are provided by the MCP, and that is the whole idea behind it. You can think about MCP is just a USB drive. It makes your machine, your desktop, more extensible to tens of thousands of devices which support USB connectivity. That's all it is. So MCP, you can write applications just by using the MCP protocol directive, and those applications are immediately available for your MCP host or MCP client. For us, we are going to use the MCP SDK, which is provided by the Claude or the Anthropic behind, and the language we are going to use the Python here. However, if you are not a Python developer, you can still write the MCP servers and client in Java, Node.js, and other languages too besides Python. And reason I have explained how it really works so that the language extensibility can be added, or variety of other language can also be added if somebody would want to. So that is all about theory. Now our objective is that let's go technical and build the MCP server and debug it and figure it out how everything works in an application such as Claude IDE, which is acting as the MCP host. So let's go part 2, where we will get our hand dirty and we will do some coding. Our objective is to, using our Claude client, we are going to create something called the Avkash MCP demo. So this will be our MCP server, and it's going to provide a particular functionality. In this case, we will add a very simple calculation tool, which is this. As you see the MCP SDK documentation for Python, it says that here you can create the MCP tool, and here you can say MCP tool add, and we are going to create this thing. And that would be a very simple test. However, it's not as simple as is if you are doing very first time. So let's ourselves. So this is the project which I will be using here is in stash folder. So this is our stash folder. So very first thing what you really need is that you need a UV tool. So UV tool, if you are not using it, you can start using it. I have started about a few months now, and I'm slowly getting very used to it. So I think that's really, it's a multiple tools packaged into a one particular tool. So you have a lot of capability just by using UV. So first, what we really need is that here is that we need to create our application. So I will say UV init, and I can say, I can just say MCP app. So this is our MCP app. We can look into MCP app. All the initialization has done, and then our MCP app also has a main.py. We can go look into here in the stash. We have MCP app, and here is our main.py. Okay, now let's go inside the MCP app. Here we are. Now we need to initialize our environment, so it can have all the local dependency, everything built into. So UV can again help us here. So we can say UV virtual env. So it's gonna create a virtual environment inside our same. So if I say look into LAH, you can see virtual environment has been created here. Then we can activate it. So we can use this command source activate. Now the virtual environment has activated and our Python version is 3.12.4. Okay, at this point we can also look into our editor. Here is Python. We can launch the terminal. Here is our terminal, and right now it's using the Python-v. So that's where it is. And as of now, if you would want to install the dependencies and packages, you can actually still use the UV for it. So if I'm using the UV, and UV has a command called tree, so it shows the project dependency tree. So you can say UV tree and MCP app and this 1.0. So that's right now it is, and then we are in Python. So as what else we really needed at this point is that if we say Python main.py, our Python application is running, but we need to install the MCP related dependency. And as you can see here, the very first thing we are installing is the MCP CLI. So it install MCP CLI if you are using UV, and if you are just using pip, then you can install MCP. So I will say UV, UV use add, not install. So UV add, and you will say MCP CLI close bracket, and it's installing MCP. And now you see that these are the packages for MCP required for this. Then we can say UV tree, and this is our package tree. So once we install the MCP CLI, these are the different packages they have installed along with MCP CLI. If you would have installed the other some of these packages separately, then it would have showed a different tree. So when we installed MCP CLI, all the packages has been installed because of MCP CLI. So that's the tree. MCP tree is going to give you results. Now we have pretty much what we really needed at this point. If you would want to run a particular MCP, so you can actually do UV run MCP. So once we install the MCP, so we need to initialize the MCP command here. So if I come here, I say MCP, because of previously I had MCP running, so that's the reason my MCP is running. Otherwise you need to say UV run MCP, and after that I can say MCP, what is my version, is giving me the MCP, sorry, old habit. Okay, MCP version is there. Okay, we are still here. Let me see what was here. So that's the, okay, I will be coming there. Okay, so here is our MCP, and if you see here why we have installed the MCP CLI, because it has the parameter called install, where we can install a MCP server to the Claude Desktop app. So let's come back to main.py and let's build our very first app. So very quick, it's just 2-line code to get ourselves started. So what we are saying, that we are importing fast MCP from mcp.server.mcp. So we are creating server fast MCP, and we are creating a name. So we can say this could be called Avkash MCP demo. So this is, you can't have space, only I think underscore and dashes are supported. So you have to use name like that way. So we are defining the MCP demo. Then after, what we need is that we need to create the what we are really providing in that MCP. So here is the decorator called MCP tool. So if this is a regular function, if I just take this and I can use add 2 numbers, and if I say these are the add 2 numbers, and I'm just using a main add, and if I'm running Python main, I need to go inside MCP demo. Okay, and if I say Python main, it doesn't have MCP, so we need to do source. So if you are here, you can see ls minus la, we have .env, so you can say source dot virtual environment binary, and you can say activate. So now the MCP is all available here, so we can come back, we can say Python main. So here you can see, oh, missing 2 parameter, my bad, got excited. 2 5. As you can see, hello MCP app, we had no error, but if we can package this thing into a print function, seven. So it means that our code is working. So this is just a regular function, but in order to convert that function to a tool which you are providing as a function inside your MCP server, you need to use a decorator. So you can say MCP dot tool. So this MCP dot tool, as suggested here, so as suggested here, MCP dot tool, you are creating a method here. So, and once you have a method, then you really need to explain it. So this where you can say, okay, this function adds to, you can write as much as, this is the information you are providing to the MCP host, that what your server function can do, this particular function, to integer numbers, and returns a integer number. Okay, so this is our function, that is what it does. And then after this is our code, and now our definition of MCP has done. We created a server, we instantiated properly by using the MCP directive here, import function, and then we define it. There is still few things we have to do, but now the next thing comes is that we have to register this. And we already looked into MCP tool when we say MCP, that MCP has a function called MCP install. So it can install, there are various ways you could do it. One is that if you launch the Claude, sorry, because I think it's using my residual information. So let me go ahead and clean this whole thing. So think like you haven't seen anything. Okay, so let me clean everything. There is nothing. Okay, so let's come back, exit. We had nothing. Okay, everything clean. We can start the Claude. There is nothing like that. Remember, in this window you have to see that, okay, there is nothing, only 2 icons here, everything clean up. And I can say add 2 plus 5, the expression, and 2 plus 5 equals 7. Claude answered this to us by using its own particular internal function, you know, how it reasoned it and then it answered it. It didn't use anything else. But what we want is that we want to integrate add to this function, because that is our add function, but that's where the connectivity is, what we want to provide application MCP server. So we need to register it. So registration usually happens is that you can go Claude, you can go settings, you can go developer, and that's where you can edit the config file. So you can edit the config file manually. And if you look into, this is the edit file, we can actually open this file here. And this is file, say we can install various MCP servers. Let me close it, and I will use MCP tools to install here. So I can say this is our main.py, and in the main.py our server name is of course MCP demo. So in order to install, if you use the MCP install, you see MCP install server.py, so it will read the method name, what is the MCP demo, and it will install that way. So let's see. So we can say MCP install main.py, and you see here it installed of course MCP demo to Claude config, and it doesn't really do anything else besides just adding the MCP demo related configuration to the config file. So let's load the config again. And as you could see here, it's using the command UV, but if you are not using command, you can manually change it. So this is the reason you can figure it out, that how the other SDK will work too. Because if you are written your server in Java, you can put the Java command and it will run locally. So server IDE or the client will run the server depending on the configuration and collect the data. So this should give you an idea that how various languages will help to create the MCP servers. So here we can say this is the UV command and it's going to run with MCP CLI, MCP run. It's too much actually, but you can make it very simple also. But I will be coming a little later. So this is the place we have, so it's launching. This is our main.py. This is run. So this is our local file folder where the main.py everything is available. So we can just keep it as it is and I will come back here. Now, I just want to make sure that you understand that yeah, I haven't completed this all, but just because the server is installed, we can come back, we can close Claude and we can restart it. We are restarting the Claude and it says that there are a bunch of error and it really doesn't know. So it means that before even we try to go anything, I would suggest you that you always look into the logs file. So the log file, because it will open the configuration. Here you can see now this is how it's really running. Status is failed. So we need to look into the log. So there is a debug. So you can always look into a folder called library logs Claude, and that's where the logs are here. So you can say tail and all the logs with MCP. So I'm just looking into the tail -f. Tail -f, and we can say we can install, we can collect MCP star.log. So these are the logs. So as you can see here, we can, there are invalid input. So there are lots of error. I'm not worried about error. I just wanted to show you that this is how you can. So this is where your connectivity from this the Claude client to the server is happening, and logs can be always check into. So I usually create something like this so I can backtrack and I can see. Now we need to come back our program and let's try to fix it. So first of all, we need to check UV. So let me open a new tab and I say in this tab, is the UV is running? Yeah, so UV is in my path. So UV is running because if Claude is running this command, it has to be available to run anywhere. Okay, so that is available. You can always say which UV. So it tells that what is the path for the UV. Okay, so I can, it is running in my, so you can see here, this is the path for the UV. So I will take this and I will make sure that this is correct. So it's correctly available. So I will come back here and I will fix this, that hey, UV is available here, please use there. Then what you could do is that you could actually clean up, then you can say directory. So you want to run this whole command in this directory, directory, and then you can provide, this is the directory where we are running this whole thing. So you can provide this directory, then this is the directory, and then you can say now you can run. So you are saying run the UV in this directory, and run is the command, and main. That's the command. Okay, that's a one option it is. Or you could still use, so what I will do is that I will create a temp file, temp.json, and you can take this whole config and you will keep it here. Okay, so this is what our code is, and then we can come back and we can clean it up. Okay, there are no MCP servers, empty. So if we come back here, we remove, okay, everything is gone. I'm just giving you a little more detail. So if you are doing first time, you can, because I spent some time to figure it out. So this is our Claude configuration. Let me close it. Claude app is launching. Everything clean. There is nothing here. We can come back here. We can install MCP. Everything is running. Quit. errors, and we already know there are errors. So this was the code, everything. We can come back main.py and we can say, okay, let me clean this whole function. We really anything needed. So this is not really needed in order to make this whole thing work. So let's remove this. And now we are exposing this MCP tool. So we have, this is our tool. This is the directive, and we can actually, this is whole code. Just make sure this code runs. There is no problem. You can also do MCP. You can say run main.py MCP run. So you are running through MCP this run because this is the command MCP run, and that command is there. It's running because as you see that is not exiting. There is no error. We can close this whole thing. Okay. And now this code is up and running. Let's restart this thing and see what happens. As you see that still there are errors in order to make this whole application run because our config file is exactly the same. So in order to complete this thing, what we really need is that we need to start the MCP server here. So you could actually say that, hey, we are, so I will say MCP dot run. So we are running the MCP dot run because remember MCP is already this, so we are running MCP and we are using the transport is equal to stdio. Yeah, stdio. So stdio. So this is our std. I'm just gonna make sure. Okay, stdio. Okay, so we are saying that when this application is running, run the MCP run. Let's come back here. MCP run. There are no errors because holding. We just need to exit it. Let's close it. Okay, so this is our whole tool. Let's make sure main.py everything is right. Come back. Claude. Quit. Let's start the Claude again. Still there are errors because that's the default is really not working. So let me close this. So come back, take this Claude config and just replace with this. So this is so we just need to make sure that our name is correct, everything. So this is the new file, new configuration because we replaced with our own. Let's come back and run Claude. And is it registered because now you see there is a hammer available and our available MCP tools are here. So this is how you can install a MCP server plugin directly with your Cloud IDE. And this is what I came up with after iteration. I figured it out. This is the correct way to do it. The install does not really work in all the environment. This might work in some environment, but not all. So this is kind of really very simplest one. And you can take this whole command. So what I really do is that I can look into and I can see so this is the MCP server integrated. So you can come back here. You can go to settings. You see the MCP server is installed and it's running right now. So what you do, you take this whole command, go to a new prompt and you take this whole argument and make sure this whole argument runs. There is no error. It means this is the command is being run as a server. Okay, so I have closed it. It's perfect. So this was one test. Now we can come back and make an error and see what happens. So what I will do is that at this point, I will go ahead and I will exit the log, clear. These are the log files. Yes, fr mcp star.star. All the logs has been cleaned up, and I will go ahead and I will actually disable this function right now because that way mcp.transport will not start. Now I will come back. Let me close this Claude. So initially what I want you to see is that how the integration works, because once you start building, you might start getting errors here and there. So understanding everything as a protocol level is a very important for you to understand. I will go ahead and launch the Claude. And before I'm launching, let me run the tail commands. Tail. Oh, so there is no file yet. So let me start the file first. So log will come. Okay, let's run the Claude. It's going to generate possible errors. Here are the possible errors. The log has been created. Now we can run tail command. So now we can see the command from everything is start. So that's where the log is started. And as you see here, initializing the server. So Claude is trying to initialize, server is started and connected successfully. And here the message from client. So client is saying that this is what I am. I am the client IDE. These are my capability. And as immediate, so server did start first line, then server transport close. So server is started and server transport is closed. And that is because the server.run MCP was not initialized. And that was the reason. So if that method was not there, everything after is not working. Okay. Let's put a line here. Come back. Let's close the Claude. So, okay, enable this back. We haven't made any change, so there is no need to test. Now let's run the Claude again. Tool is there, everything. Let's come back to log. And as you can see here, our log is started from here, same way. Initializing the server, server initialization, and then after message from client, okay, and here message from server. Now this server is start explaining that I'm using JSON RPC 2.0 protocol is this version, and as you could see here, that is saying that server name is Avkash MCP demo, and I'm using that version. Oh, what I did. Okay. Then after server is explaining that capabilities. Okay, so this is the demo from message from server, and you can see here and then a communication happens. Okay. Yeah. Now you see here, this is the place where message from server is say, I have tool which is called the name is add, description is that this function adds 2 up. So here we are, this is the directives which we have written what we can do. So here you could see that this is the place which is the add is being, this is the description, and here the properties, input schema, A, integer, B, and this is the definition. So this is what I really wanted you to see, that this is how the communication between the MCP server and the MCP host or the client has been established that way. Now we can say add 4, 5. As you could see that add is being understood, and now the MCP host looking into the server and say, hey, I found this MCP demo. I will let allow only once because that's how I can keep testing it. And here it's running and it's generating the result, everything here. So as you could see here that inside this code, there was some UUID, etc. So these were the call patterns, everything. So if I look into here, I can tail this command, and if I can use this and say again, add 5, this, and let's look into the log. 5, as you could see here, this is what being sent, 5 and 101, and the result has been provided here. So we got idea how everything is start, how these tools, here you could see this tool shows that we have add. But if very quickly we would want to add one more tool, we could actually come here, just write, it's called the, it's a zoom function. This function takes one integer and return one integer. Okay, it's called the zoom. This function, okay, takes integer number and returns zoom integer number. And what is it? It's just basically I will take a times a, and I can say times a times a. This is my way of running the zoom function. Okay, so this is the zoom. Okay, now we can go ahead, we can close it. Claude, let's launch it successfully. Now you can see it has two. It say add and zoom. This function takes an integer number and return a zoom integer number. Okay, so what is the zoom? Okay, so I can say zoom of 4. There you go. It's looking to my function I can use, and that's where the zoom is. Okay, what I can say, can you zoom the number 5? Now you see, so it's understanding the zoom has been defined by me, and then depending on the zoom capability, it will keep using the zoom as a function. So it's not like you have to just write a zoom in parentheses. No, you can logically. Okay, I like these. Okay, so how I can zoom a number like 3. Still you can see that is, this is how you are zooming the number. So you can get an idea how you can create a very simple MCP server and you can integrate with Claude. And that was our idea. So you see here there is zoom. It is really explaining how the zoom work. Okay. And this is like zoom n is n square. So this is my way of doing the zoom function. So the next step right now for us is to actually go and extend the application which we have just the MCP server which we have just installed with Claude IDE or Claude Desktop version. We need to extend this bit little more deeper. So what I have done is that I have taken a concept of file download. So it is the PDF downloader. What it does, it actually connects with our Claude client, and then after it actually goes outside and it search the Google, and it's using the Google search API, and this API helps us to find a certain PDF document which we are looking for, and then it downloads it. And that's what our functionality we are exposing through our application. So it doesn't really matter that how you create it, because there are so many ways you can create this application. So I do have this application already available here. So if you look into my MCP app folder, I have get PDF application is running. That application is actually here. So you can see the get PDF, and what it does is basically use the search API, Google search API, and it calls the function, and then it just look into the various files, search, and then it just gives me, and then it's download. So this is a main function called search and download. What it does, it download the, here we are passing the search query. It just search for one result, download by using API key and search engine ID, and I'm using Google. So you can go to download this thing, and this is the async IO calling this. Let me run this Python get PDF, and here we are searching machine learning algorithms. Okay, and we can actually change it, but actually let's run it. So it's searching one PDF, and it actually downloaded this PDF very quickly. Downloading PDF, search. So it means this code is working. Now we need to integrate this code inside our application, and we need to use that. So here we can say this is our function. What is called this? Async search and download. So we can come here and we can say from, what is called, get PDF import search and download. So that's our search and download method. Then we can expose. So this is our search and download. So we can say search and download So we are calling here define search PDF and download. Okay, and here we need to pass the query. So search query, this is, and here we are calling the search and download. Search and download is needed a search query. So that's, as you can see here, we need to pass the search query. Return, and this is our MCP tool, so we can just define it. So search and download, and now we are missing important point. We have to explain it. So okay, this function takes a search parameter as a string and search internet to find the PDF document, PDF downloadable documents and if available, it downloads those documents to the local folder. So this is our MCP tool. You can make sure your code is running. Python main.py. So far it's okay. So we already have our main application running, and here we are calling this function. And in the original, you can see that this was being called as a async IO because it was defined here async. So in order to make it run locally, I have made this correct call. However, here I'm just making this return so Claude or the MCP host can figure it out how best to call this function and utilize it. So this is our function. It takes a search query. Now I can go ahead and I can, as you see here, that I really don't need to change anything because just all the definitions are covered by the MCP tool, and I have just called this method. So let me start the Claude. As you can see, the number 3 is available. It means 3 tools are available, and they are coming because of these 3 tools. We have 1, 2, 3. These 3 tools are available, and as you see here, that search PDF and download method is also available. So we will use it. We can say search internet for bio. Actually, use the machine learning algorithm books algorithms for biostats and download them. So okay, searching, and it's this time. Okay, there you go. Now it's called our method and it's figuring out that, okay, so I will let it allow once. Okay, it's running this search PDF and download from Avkash MCP. I have initiated search to download the relevant PDF documents. Okay, and they will be sold as saved to your local folder. So now they are here. So this is just of step 1. But if we would need to add more, we want to read those files, and we need to write a lot of code here. So we could read, we could figure it out, what is the summary, anything like that. But this shows that the function which we have just written here, that is also available. So I will make sure these files are available for you. So this is the MCP host we have, and we have seen that it's connected with here. We can also PDF downloader. next would be to connect with local file system. So now the PDF has been downloaded. So we need to create the local file system so we can read them, and that would be the something the SQL DB2. But I think that that I would try in my next. But as of now, the objective we had to understand the MCP servers writing and then how they really connect with MCP client or MCP host has been completed. That's all I really had for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in my another session. Until then, thank you so much and peace.